Hello, happy Sunday, everyone. How is everybody doing after that eclipse? Wow. Wow, wow, wow. It seems like we have this duality thing going on with the eclipses. Like one is kind of, I wouldn't say easier, but maybe smoother to integrate. And then the other one is always really, really intense and is like trying to integrate lava or something. That's how it feels to me. Yesterday, it felt like there were like these earthquake shudders happening. And like every time there was a shudder, a bunch of stuff got kicked up. That's what it felt like to me anyway. So this week, there are a lot of aspects happening with the big boys, so the outer planets. Neptune, Jupiter, and Pluto, we're kind of like doing this dance with them right now. It might feel a little bit stressed just because of the intensity, I think, of the aspects. And I also have a mantra too, which I don't think I've done before, but I just kind of like, as I was writing out the aspects, it just kind of came up. So let's bring up the chart. Now, when I go through this stuff, look at your chart too to figure out where exactly these aspects are happening. So for example, like if we have a square aspect between two planets, look at what sign those planets are in, and then look in your chart. And that will really tell you how your life specifically will respond to that aspect, if that makes sense. And that's really important too, because there is this overall energy, but we all have our own unique experiences as well. So, okay. There's a little bit of a different chart here. This is like the aspect grid here, and there's just some like other grids of the mode, mutable, fixed, and cardinal, and also the elements. I am just so tired ever since that eclipse. It was emotionally, mentally, spiritually exhausting, to be honest. So my sleep has been really weird, and I've been having very vivid dreams, and I'm just very tired. I don't know. Still getting what I need to get done, but it definitely feels like a huge shift happened, and we were magnetically drawn and repelled from, what belongs in our life and what doesn't. That's what it felt like. There was like almost like a split, and everybody kind of just like found their groupings, and a lot of things were like let go in that process too, which is good, but like it happened so fast because it's the eclipse that it's going to take time, I think. And of course with the eclipses too, it's not just that day, it's like the next 6 months, it's the next year, it just continues on forever, really. It doesn't really stop. But we just learned so much so quickly that it just can be a little bit difficult to integrate. Okay, so today is the 5th. Let's go to Monday. So on Monday, Mars in Scorpio is going to sextile Pluto in Capricorn. So you can see that they're both at 25 degrees here. And if you look at this grid, this is how you read the grid also. So if you find Mars up here, and then you go down to Pluto, you'll see that they're sextile. You can see 0 degrees right there. So Mars in Scorpio, sextile Pluto in Capricorn. That is some intense energy. It just makes me think of like the Grim Reaper aspect of Capricorn. Mars in Scorpio, which is the seasoned veteran, that is the soldier, that is the been there, done that kind of warrior energy. Mars in Scorpio is intense, but you don't always see it because Scorpio tends to bury things. Scorpio likes to keep things hidden in fear of maybe being vulnerable. They don't like that. So they usually tend to bury that intensity, or they hide it in their darkness. So you don't always know that it's there, but it's there. They're more so waiting in darkness, and they're very good at conserving their energy, I would say. So they'll wait until the moment that they really need to use that energy. I've been seeing some stuff online too, but they're like, Mars in Scorpio is overrated. And I don't think that's true at all. I think it's a very, very, very powerful placement, but most people just don't see it because they're very strategic. They keep their energy, their focus in the dark. And that's kind of like where we're all at right now too. I think that where we are putting our energy and what we're showing others, like as far as where our energy is going, it doesn't exactly line up. It's not that it's not truthful, but I feel like we're all hiding our intentions really well. and it's making everybody like really suspicious of each other. That's like the vibe I'm getting right now, just because we're not being like entirely upfront. Now, because of Sagittarius planets, we're being kind of upfront, but we still have that Mars in Scorpio. So like there's a lot left to be desired, you know? We're just not really sure what other people are doing, and like we want to know, and we're trying to like use that Mars and Scorpio to penetrate into their darkness, but we're all in the Mars and Scorpio place. So we're still doing the work in the underworld for sure. And because Mars is like so late into Scorpio now too, we're at 25 degrees. I think that there's maybe this feeling of like desperation starting to creep up on us, like all the shadow work we have to do, we got to do it now. You know, now is the time for sure. We're moving into the darkest part of the year pretty soon, Capricorn season, which is more of a serious minded season, I would say. It can be very like celebratory, but because it's so dark here in the northern hemisphere, sorry for you guys, the southern hemisphere, because it's so dark here, we tend to just be maybe a little bit more introverted, and we're still putting in the work and still moving forward, doing what we have to do, but it's not as fun. All right, maybe that's my personal opinion. I have Neptune in Capricorn, so it always kind of feels like not a buzzkill, but it kind of sucks the fun out of like my illusions and delusions, you know, having Neptune in Capricorn. Okay, so Mars is sextiling Pluto on Monday, and on Tuesday, Mercury in Sagittarius, where's Mercury? Mercury in Sagittarius is going to square Neptune, 20 degrees, and Mars in Scorpio is going to square Jupiter. That's interesting. So Mars is busy right now. So we have these two squares to Neptune and Jupiter. So what do they have in common? They actually have a lot in common. I would say that Neptune is like, they do say that Neptune is sort of the higher octave of Venus, which I could definitely see. But like Jupiter was Neptune before Neptune was discovered. For example, Pisces was ruled by Jupiter in ancient astrology. So Jupiter expands and expands and expands until it gets to the boundary of Saturn, and then it deflates. And that's not my word, that's actually Rick Levine's words and what he taught us. And Neptune will expand forever because it's beyond the boundary of Saturn. I know I've talked about that before. Jupiter is a gaseous planet, so it will expand, I would say, physical reality to an extent, but Neptune is nebulous, so it dissolves. It literally dissolves reality, dissolves boundaries, dissolves traditions, dissolves rules, all of that stuff. Jupiter can do that to an extent, but not really. I more so see Jupiter placements as like a bird starting in one spot and then like flying out and then coming back, flying out, you know, reaching to the horizon, beyond the horizon, expanding your vision, expanding your dreams to an extent. And then it's like, okay, we hit Saturn, we got to come back to where we started, or come back to reality to some extent. I'm thinking of Chiron right now as well. Chiron in Sagittarius, obviously that's like both the Centaur energy, but Chiron is like the higher octave of the Centaur energy. Chiron is like the ultimate Centaur. So integrating the lessons that we've learned, I think this eclipse season is important because it really was painful for a lot of people, including my cats. I know we've been talking about that in the Discord. Man, they've been going through it too. But with Chiron, it's important to take the wisdom that we've learned, if it's grown to maturity, like if we've truly, honestly learned that lesson, then we can take that wisdom out to the world and help them on their journeys and help them heal themselves. That was kind of a theme for me this eclipse, so I don't know if that resonates at all. So let's move forward until Saturday. There's really not a whole lot going on until we get to Saturday. There are quite a bit of quintiles going on too, so it might be a good time for creativity, creative projects, doing magic for sure, working with like Venus kind of magic, so working with like physical reality stuff, because you know Venus is very on this earth, right? Venus is really responsible for all the beauty that we have here on earth, so working with herbs, working with art, working with like physical mediums, that's always a good idea when there's a lot of quintiles. On Saturday, it's a busy day. For sure, because we have Venus conjuncting Pluto. Now, honestly, I've been waiting for this. This is like major Ishtar energy, Inanna, war goddess, war and love goddess energy, love and war. This is intense, and it's in Capricorn too. So again, Grim Reaper kind of energy. There are things being killed off. There are cords and ties in our relationships and the way that we give and receive love in our partnerships and the people that we spend the most time with. There are things dying. There's definitely this feeling of like a lot of things dying, not just because nature is kind of going dormant right now, but there are things that we have to let go of. There are habits, patterns. I don't remember if I talked about this or not. I have like no memory of like the intense part of eclipse season. I'm not even joking. Like it's just very blurry to me right now. There was like time was sped up and it was slowed down and it was stopped, and I didn't know what was real, what wasn't real anymore. Where was I going with this? So I do think that this is kind of like a culmination of like the last eclipse season that happened in summer. Venus in Capricorn is already a little bit serious minded. We're kind of like using each other, not in a bad way, to level up in life, to move to the next level, to be more grounded, and to become also a stable foundation for ourselves too. Like I know this is Venus and how we give and receive love, but how we give and receive love, how we give and receive affection and desire, it really starts with us. Like we are that point, we are the seed. Conjuncting Pluto, of course, there's a transformation happening, but in harsh, sometimes Capricorn conjuncting Pluto, I definitely see this as it's time to let go of those things that are preventing you from really enjoying and experiencing the fullness of our existence, because we've been hurt, because we've been betrayed. In the case of Capricorn, because we've been used by people for purposes, you know, whatever their purpose was. I'm thinking of like the Devil card too. And I think we've all been through those experiences too when we were younger and trying to date people who just weren't ready for that sort of thing. That's the kind of stuff that's like coming up right now for some reason. And we're deconstructing that for good. Like we already understand logically why it happened, but as far as Capricorn goes, it's like we got to really work to deconstruct this so we can create like a new reality and solidify these lessons, these relationship lessons that we've been learning. It's a long time coming, right? We've been learning this stuff over and over and over again, and now I feel like it's really rooting in, and it's really going deep. On the same day, we also have Mercury forming a sextile to Jupiter, and the Sun in Sagittarius squaring Neptune. So again, there's this stuff with Neptune and Jupiter right now, that expansive reality, that expansive quality. And because the Sun in Sagittarius is square Neptune and Pisces, I think it's important to talk about maybe the difficulties of those two planets. And we have talked about them before, being illusions and delusions, dissolving reality to the point where we get so far detached from reality that it just doesn't make sense anymore, and we lose our grasp of it entirely. I was just reading, oh my gosh, where was I reading this? Let me see if I can pull up the website. This was really interesting. I was reading about like shamanic crises, and they were talking about how, now again, I'm not a doctor, but I'm just gonna repeat what I saw. So they were talking about how a shamanic crisis and a person who is going through a psychotic episode are very, very similar. And they were talking about how, and I will put the link in the comments because that's not fair to this actual website, but I have to look in my history though and try to find it. They were talking about how those two experiences are very, very similar. And the only difference is that when you're having a shamanic crisis, you're, you know, just having a spiritual crisis basically, and still experiencing these different dimensions and realities and spirits, and like you're aware of the fact that you're having a crisis. And they were talking about how during a psychotic episode, that person is having the same experience, but they're lost. They're lost in the dimensions. They're lost in the other worlds. And I thought that was really interesting too, just of course, because of the way that our society treats people. And I'm not denying like the medical science behind that and everything. Our society definitely doesn't have like, at least not readily available, like spiritual workers and shamans and stuff to help people through that, if that is what they're experiencing. But I thought that was really interesting. And that's like definitely a Neptune vibe, in my opinion. That's like, especially when the sun in Sagittarius, which is already so like, I'm gonna get out of this, so grandiose, so just like larger than life. And squaring Neptune, which is so nebulous, it's the dissolution, it's literally taking reality and just dissolving it away. And I do think that that's somehow connected to that. And I thought that was a really interesting read. And of course, I won't say her name or anything, but my counselor, she also talks about that. We had a whole conversation about how it's interesting that people who have psychotic episodes, they always see like angels and demons and spirits. Like, why aren't they seeing other stuff? Like, I know they see like creatures and stuff like that too, from some people I've talked to who are schizophrenic. But it is interesting that they always see like the spiritual stuff. I don't know. Okay. So anyways, square Neptune. Neptune is dangerous. So sometimes we think Neptune, we think like dreamy, metaphysical, magical, mystical. Of course, it's all of those things. It's very spiritual, esoteric, and beautiful. Honestly, Neptune is absolutely beautiful. But every planet has the light and the dark. So I think while we're dealing with all these like Neptune squares right now with the Sagittarius planets, it's really, really important to stay rooted in reality. Perhaps Venus and Capricorn and Pluto can help us with that. But I think there's this danger of, if we get too caught up in the Neptunian dream, illusion, delusion, fantasy, whatever, Venus and Pluto and Capricorn is going to come and kick our butt. And that's what basically Pluto and Capricorn has been doing this whole time. Like, once we get too far out there, it's like slamming down. Nope, you're coming back to reality right now. And I do think that this week there's definitely a danger for that. Neptune also, in my opinion, is very responsible for like addictions and, of course, escapism and other escapism tactics. I'm always like a big believer in what my mom would say, reality. She's always like, that's not reality, Liz. We have my Uranus and her Saturn are conjunct. So she would always talk about that. But it is so important to like bring that stuff back down to earth. And I hope this isn't coming off as like a huge rant right now, but I'm just thinking out loud. And this is like a huge danger of psychedelic drugs too, because people get so amazed, and I don't even know how to explain it. They get so like addicted to tapping into spirit and spirituality and whatever it is they experience there, that they totally lose grasp of reality, and it's not good. And it becomes very, very damaging. So that, again, that this week there is that theme, because we have Mercury squaring Neptune and Mars squaring Jupiter on Tuesday. And then on Saturday, we have Mercury sextiling Jupiter and the sun squaring Neptune. And then we have Pluto thrown into this here. So like, can you feel the energy I'm trying to get at here? There's definitely the opportunity to create art, to do trance work, to travel in the spirit world, for sure. Like, do your work there for sure right now. But because of Pluto, like showing its face in these aspects, I feel that Pluto is like, it's almost like a warning. I'm kind of like giving you a warning to like not get too far in what like you're so sure is reality, because it might not be reality right now. And Pluto is going to let you know. Pluto is just going to like, cause that apocalypse anyway, whether we want to see the truth or not. All right. So that is pretty much all I have to say for this week. I hope that your eclipse integration is going well. So I have it's more just like a paragraph that I wrote, but it's kind of like a mantra. So I'm going to read this mantra. I'm going to burn a little bit of this Palo Santo that someone got me from Argentina. It smells very, very good. I'm not going to be using Palo Santo once I run out of what I have, just because the forests like are getting destroyed in South America, because people are cutting down trees that aren't ready to be cut down. I can feel the energy of the tree or the plants that I use, and you can really tell the difference energetically. The thing with Palo Santo is it's supposed to be from branches that naturally fell from the tree, but because of the huge business that has exploded for Palo Santo, they're just cutting down healthy trees to the point where like the main tree that they get Palo Santo from is like going extinct. And I'm like, that is just so terrible. My mom lives in Wisconsin and she has a lot of pine trees by her house. And I was burning pine, and honestly, it worked so well. I love using things that are local, like they're local for a reason. We have that like energetic exchange and connection with those things. Okay, so this is what I wrote for this week as far as a mantra goes. I trust that the truth will prevail. I trust that honesty and integrity will align us with our soul's true destiny. I believe in expressing authenticity. I know I am exactly where I need to be right now. I embrace change with grace and compassion for myself and others. So I hope that resonated a bit. I'm going to go ahead and read it again just one more time. Take it in if you want to take it in, or just listen. I trust that the truth will prevail. I trust that honesty and integrity will align us with our soul's true destiny. I believe in expressing authenticity. I know I am exactly where I need to be. I embrace change with grace and compassion for myself and others. Okay, thank you so much. I love you guys and I'm so grateful for you. And yes, I'm going to create a month forecast. Now, I don't have the best attention span, I would say. I can if I'm like hyper fixated on something, but I'm going to create a month forecast with like the most important days, like the biggest aspects. I personally cannot watch like forecast videos that are like super, super long. I tried. My teacher, Rick Levine, would make them and they were great, but I just couldn't do it. So I'm going to focus on like the main stuff, new moon, full moon. We do have that Saturn Uranus square coming up again. So I'll talk about like that stuff. And like, I don't know, like Mercury aspects I might throw in there too. Just whatever my intuition tells me is probably the most important stuff. You know, the more like rare aspects, like Mercury is going to be aspecting things no matter where it is, like all day long, but the outer planets are really important. Okay, all right, I hope you guys have a wonderful week and I will see you soon.